Every project, no matter how big or small, eventually runs into this one massive challenge. How do you get from a mountain of really cool ideas to a delivery schedule you can actually count on? How do you know when things will really get done? Today, we're going to break down exactly how the Agile approach takes this on. Yes, the big one. This is the question that sends a shiver down the spine of pretty much any project team. Your clients want to know, your boss wants to know, heck, you want to know. It sounds so simple, right? But giving an accurate answer is one of the toughest things to do. Agile gives us a way to answer this, not with some kind of crystal ball, but with actual data and a completely different way of thinking. Okay, so this is the absolute key. It's a total mental shift. The old traditional way obsesses over time. How many hours? How many days? The problem? We humans are just not that good at estimating time for complex stuff. So, Agile flips the script. Instead of asking, how long will this take? We ask, how big is this? We focus on comparing one task to another, which, it turns out, is something our brains are much, much better at doing. And that brings us to the main tool for this new way of measuring, story points. See, before we can answer the big questions about delivery, we have to change the very unit we're using to measure the work itself. Let's be super clear. A story point is not an hour, it's not a day, it has nothing to do with time on a clock. Think of it more like a single unit of effort. It's just an abstract number that the team uses to represent how much work is involved in getting something all the way to done. What makes a story point so powerful is that it's a blend of a few different things. You've got three main ingredients baked into that one number. First, there's complexity. Is this thing technically tricky to build? Then you have uncertainty. How many unknowns or risks are lurking in there? And finally, just the raw effort. The sheer volume of work that needs to get done. So a really simple but big task might get the same points as a tiny but incredibly complex one. And you'll notice teams don't just use any numbers. They often use a scale like this, which is based on the Fibonacci sequence. Now, why these weird numbers? Well, it's pretty smart, actually. The gaps between the numbers get bigger and bigger. That reflects a basic truth. The larger a task seems, the more uncertainty is baked into it, and the harder it is for us to tell the difference between, say, a 20-point task and a 21-point task. This scale forces us to group things into distinct buckets of size, which makes estimating faster and more realistic. So who gets to decide how many points a task is worth? Not some manager in an office, not the project lead, the entire team does. Agile estimation is a team sport. The whole idea is that the people who are actually going to do the work are the best ones to size it up. When you combine all their different perspectives, you get an estimate that's way more accurate. The most popular way teams do this is with a technique called planning poker. It's actually pretty cool. The product owner explains a task, the team talks about it, and then, here's the key part, everyone picks a card with their estimate and keeps it secret. Then, on the count of 3, everyone reveals their card at the same time. This is the magic moment. It prevents the first person who speaks from influencing everyone else. And when the numbers are different, that's not a problem. That's a conversation starter. The person with the high number might see a risk no one else did, and the person with the low one might know a shortcut. They talk it out until they land on a number everyone can agree on. Okay, so the team has estimated all the work in story points. Awesome. But that number by itself still doesn't answer the when will it be done question. To connect that effort back to a calendar, we need the second crucial piece of the puzzle, velocity. So what is velocity? It's simply the average number of story points a team has actually completed in a past work cycle, or what we call a sprint. This isn't a guess or a target. It's a historical fact. It's the team's proven, real-world rate of getting things done. Now, to use velocity right, there are some non-negotiable rules. First and foremost, it's for forecasting. It is not a weapon to measure team performance. And you should never, ever use it to compare one team to another, because every team's points are on their own unique scale. After about 3 or 4 sprints, this number usually starts to get pretty stable, and that's when the magic happens. If your whole project has 100 points of work and your team's stable velocity is 20 points per sprint, you can now forecast with real confidence that it's going to take about 5 sprints to finish. All right, we know how big the work is, and we know our team's average speed. The final piece of this whole system is tracking our progress in real time. This helps us answer that other constant question. Are we actually on track right now? To do this, Agile teams use something called information radiators. And the name really says it all. The goal is simple. Make the team's progress so big and so visible that it's literally impossible for anyone to ignore. A classic example is the sprint burn-down chart. Think of this as your micro view. It's tracking the work left to do just within a single sprint. Ideally, you want to see that line marching steadily downwards towards zero. If that line flatlines for a couple of days, or even worse, goes up, that's an instant signal. It tells the team, hey, we need to huddle up and figure out how to get back on track. And for the macro, big picture view, there's the release burn-up chart. This isn't just about one sprint. It tracks the progress for the entire project. The line burns up as the team completes work. But here's the really brilliant part. It also has a second line that tracks the total scope of the project. So, if stakeholders decide to add new features, that scope line jumps up, and everyone can immediately see the impact that has on the timeline. It makes scope creep totally transparent. Now look, you could absolutely do all of this with sticky notes on a wall, and a lot of great teams still do. But let's be real, most teams today are using digital tools to make this all work. Tools like Jira, Trello, or Azure DevOps are what bring these charts and numbers to life automatically. And they make it possible for teams spread all over the world to stay perfectly in sync. So, we started this whole explainer with that one super stressful question. When will it be done? But after all this, after understanding points, velocity, and these charts, you start to realize that Agile gives us the power to answer a much better, much more powerful question. What is the most valuable thing we can deliver next? And focusing on that, well, that changes everything.